So in '94, I gave my life to God and I got baptized. And then as life happened, I slipped away from God. Not my love of God, but I'd slipped away from going to the church. Throughout that period, I had a couple of failed marriages, a couple of failed relationships. But then in 2015, I met my girlfriend, Laura. We'd had a couple of dates, and she told me that she was going to church on the Sunday, so we couldn't do the plans that I was making. It stopped me in my tracks. Could I come to church with you, please? When I used to go around to visit her, she never had a television, so we always had the radio on, and I think it took me a day or two to realise that the music that's playing, every single song is about Jesus or God or the Holy Spirit. Oh, what radio station is this? And that's where I found out about UCB. You know, we could just be sitting down and then you just sit back and you hear somebody's testimony, or you'd hear somebody deliver a short message. Wow, that one really struck me today. Or you'll get a prayer, you'll get some worship music, and it just seems to be such a good mix. I got a living position as a chef. Wednesday and Thursday were 2 days where I was on my own, and I'd be switching on to UCB too. And those first 3 hours in the kitchen between 9 and 12 were my time, and that was just me doing all my prep, all my cleaning, and getting ready for the day. You'd have the front of house staff coming down. Oh, this is quite a catchy tune. What's this one? Oh, you haven't heard this one by Hillsong Worship. Who? Oh, what are you listening to? But it's my kitchen and my radio. They couldn't turn it off. But it was a stressful time because it was a busy restaurant. It was a hotel. So quite often you're working from 7 in the morning up until 10:30 at night. Sunday was our busiest day. I didn't get to go to church anymore because I'm cooking Sunday dinners. And I think as a result of that, Laura and myself really did drift apart as well. I was drinking too much, my work was slipping, my quality of work was slipping, and it ended with me losing my job. And as it was a living position, the place that I lived as well. The very next day, I got the news that one of my very close friends had taken their own life. And at that point, that was what broke me, and I think that was where the darkness just completely overwhelmed me. So I called my dad, who was still in Johannesburg at the time. And I think I wrote down to him, and my dad just said, book yourself on the next flight. Dad took me to his work, and then we went back to the house. Stepmom came home, gave me the biggest hug. Said, Sunday, do you want to come to church with me? And I looked at her and said, I don't think so. Sunday morning, she woke up and said, oh, I'm off to church, do you want to come? And I just, you know what, if you give me 10 minutes. And I got changed and I took the drive to church with her. Walked in, got myself coffee, and heard this music playing on the speakers. And it was just faintest sort of guitar. And I was thinking, I know this. The song that came on, it was just the opening words, there's a grace when the heart is under fire. And I just thought straight back, I thought, the only reason I know this is UCB. Hillsong, Another in the Fire. And I just sat through that service. I jumped, I sang, and I just felt amazing. I'd given up, but Another in the Fire and UCB and God just came together and said, I'm here with you. We'll get you through this. I hadn't spoken to Laura in about 2 months at this point, and I just thought, I'm going to send her an email and just say, I wish you nothing but the very best. I've always loved you, I always will. I think it was about 30 seconds later I got a reply. You've made it to South Africa. I'm so happy you got to see your dad. And we just started talking. I joined fully in with that church. We had home cells and I loved every minute of it. But Laura was calling me back. And 3 months later, I'd bought my ticket, I was going home. So I think it's been 3 years since I've come back. And I've had just that continual peace. I mean, UCB has just continually been a source of comfort for us. I've joined a charity in my local area called Resurrected Bites, and they deal with food waste. So they contact local supermarkets, they get a lot of the food that is going out of date or about to go out of date. We get it delivered, and then we were sending that out as food parcels at the beginning of the pandemic. And then they started going, why don't we start cooking some of this, get some takeaway containers? And they started looking for chefs, and I was like, well, do you know what, I can do that for you. And with a lovely kitchen inside the Methodist church, I've got my little UCB radio on, and nobody at the church had heard of UCB until I've started going there. But this is the only radio station we have in the kitchen now. Everybody loves it. You couldn't get better.